Have you ever heard yourself say, I feel like I've known this person forever. I have never felt a connection like this before. This is karmic. They must be my soulmate. If you've heard yourself say that before, you might be stuck in a trauma bond relationship. So stay tuned to see why do we feel that trauma bond relationships are fated or spiritual. That is also what makes a trauma bond so hard to walk away from, because it doesn't just feel emotional, it actually feels spiritual.
At the end of this video, you will discover how to have and experience a true spiritual connection. So stick around to the end.
So today we want to discuss the difference between spiritual connection and nervous system attachment.
Let's start with the feeling, I feel like I've known them forever. People interpret that as a soul recognition. But what is actually happening is your nervous system is recognizing something familiar. Your nervous system is not saying, this is my soulmate. Your nervous system is saying, I know this. This is familiar.
I think the first thing a person needs to realize, it's all happening unconscious. It's not a conscious process. You're not consciously going to choose a trauma bond. It's something that's happening unconsciously. So especially like in a household, maybe you've learned there's unpredictability. I need to earn love. Whatever the household experience was can have a big impact of why you choose a partner and why you allow certain things inside the relationship as well. But what we need to remember, it's not necessarily only linked to childhood. People think, oh, it's only linked to childhood. It's good to go and reflect on your childhood and have a look at how your childhood were so that it can give you some context of what you allow and why you allow it in your current relationship if you're in a trauma bond. But it can also happen due to a previous relationship. Many times we had a relationship. I hear of people who say, I went into a relationship when I was 15. And when they were 15, they maybe went into a relationship with someone who were 6 or 8 years older than they were. And that what they've learned there created that familiarity inside the nervous system. So it definitely can happen that you move from one relationship to the next relationship, and every relationship is a trauma bond, but it will not necessarily happen in that way. So Carl Jung has a saying. He says that what is unhealed, you will repeat. And you repeat it because you actually, subconsciously, you have a desire to heal it. So that what is unhealed comes through into the surface. And now you go to that relationship and you feel that amazing connection of that person, but the connection is actually a sign of what needs to be healed. So many times we choose a partner and we feel that amazing chemistry, that amazing spiritual connection, because if we want to heal something. And the beauty is of such a relationship, it can bring amazing healing. It can bring amazing insight. If you use the relationship, if you're out of the trauma bond and you look back and you reflect and you use it, what do I need to learn? What is my patterns? Why do I allow this? Because it also can show signs of what you need to heal.
And say, we will date our wounds until we heal. And in a trauma bond relationship, there's a lot of mirroring that happens, especially at the beginning of the relationship. But what is really happening is projection. You are not falling in love with who the person truly are. You are falling in love with the parts of you that finally feels recognized. Another reason why trauma bonds feel spiritual is because humans search for meaning in pain. If something hurts this badly, it has to have a purpose. It has to have a meaning. Instead of asking, is this healthy for me? We ask, what am I meant to learn from this?
And the projections is such a big topic on its own, and that projections happens unconsciously.
Yes.
And just like you've said, they reflect your dreams, your wounds, your values, all of that. But at the same time, that projection can be positive and negative. So it's reflecting an aspect of you, of your potential. But at the same time, it's also reflecting of your own wounds. So that projection reflects also the good and the bad. back to you as well. But that is a topic on its own, because it's quite a big topic and a big discussion. The reason why the trauma bond feels so spiritual is due to physiology. Like we've mentioned before, in a trauma bond, you have a chemical concoction. There's cortisol, there's oxytocin, there's dopamine. And that concoction creates that chemistry, creates that intensity. And that is many times what people confuse then with spiritual connection. People who is in a trauma bond relationship will say, this is transcendent. It feels like I'm in a different world. I'm in a different reality. Yes. It feels unreal. It feels magical. Other people would say it's magnetic. It's otherworldly. So there's definitely a big pull of feeling connected to something deeper than what you ever felt before.
Yeah, who wouldn't want magical and magnetic and
most
otherworldly? We crave that.
But the difference is that's not actually spiritual. That is the chemical concoction that creates that same euphoric feeling, but it's actually the illusion.
And that soul level pull that we feel in a trauma bond relationship often is from our inner child. That part of ourselves that is longing for that love and connection that it didn't get as a child or didn't experience. That's the part of you that is hoping that maybe this time I'll be chosen. Maybe this time love will stay. Maybe this time I will be enough. That longing deserves compassion, not another round of abandonment.
So the word for it, why people get stuck, it's actually a survival attachment loop.
Yes.
So the moment sometimes we need a new vocabulary. And the moment you know, oh, this is actually a survival attachment loop, you automatically creates the awareness, because people get hooked into the spirituality.
Yeah, then you don't romanticize it so much anymore.
Yes.
Exactly. And growth can come from pain, but that doesn't mean that the relationship needs to be sustained. Sometimes the lesson from this relationship is simply, it stops here. I heal here. I don't repeat this again. And the concept of twin flames is so dangerous, because what I've seen is that with twin flames, people normalize and romanticize concepts like emotional volatility, abandonment, disrespect, even emotional hurt or harm, all in the name of spiritual growth, a deeper meaning beyond this reality and dimension. Real connection does not destabilize your nervous system. It doesn't erode your self-worth, and it doesn't ask you to disconnect from yourself in order to connect. It doesn't ask you to abandon yourself in order to connect.
So I think let's discuss what's the difference between spiritual connection and a trauma bond, because there's a clear difference. But in a trauma bond, there's a sense of urgency. There's obsessiveness. There's, I'm feeling trapped. I'm feeling stuck. I'm feeling I'm not good enough. I'm feeling disconnected.
Yes.
Most people in a trauma bond, yes, there's moments of connection, but if you look at a relationship in its essence, they actually feel disconnected. They feel disconnected from themselves. And that, in its essence, nothing about that is actually spiritual.
True.
So spirituality is all about consistency. I'm feeling grounded. I'm feeling expansive. You know, so it's also I'm feeling connected to something higher and more than myself. That is,
absolutely,
that creates a spiritual connection. But in a trauma bond, you feel actually disconnected from yourself, and you feel disconnected even in this relationship. So it's not much spirituality in its essence in that.
In that, yes. And one of the most common experiences is that people feel less than.
Most definitely.
So the minute that you have a more than, less than dynamic, you're stepping out of that spiritual connection.
Spiritual connection feels like there's a connectedness, there's an expansion, there's presence. A trauma bond in its essence feels like survival. I'm in survival mode.
Survival mode.
And then you get stuck in your reptilian brain. And in a spirituality, you're much more in your prefrontal cortex, much more connected. I think it's important to remember we exist out of many facets. You know, we're more complex than what we actually realize. We have an inner
True.
child. We have different parts of ourselves. We exist out of different parts. And the whole healing journey is to reconnect those parts so that all the parts can come together in order to heal.
Yes.
It's so important to reframe. We need to reframe, and because if we reframe, we change our perspective. We need to look at it differently. So instead of holding on to this trauma bond and say, this is the one, this is the person, this is my soulmate, this is destiny, I'm committed, I'm going to be loyal, that commitment and loyalty can also destroy you.
Absolutely.
Because everything in life has a duality. So just as commitment and loyalty is great qualities, commitment and loyalty can become destructive, especially now if you stay in a relationship which is no longer serving you.
Yes.
So I would suggest reframe it in a certain way. You can reframe it by saying this connection wasn't meant to last. That's one way to look at it. It was an experience. It was great. I've learned a certain lesson, but it wasn't meant to last.
Yeah. Don't give it that spiritual depth and meaning that it might not really have.
Another way to reframe it is, this connection and this experience actually showed me my wounds. It reflected back to me my own inner wounds. It reflected back to me the parts inside myself which is unhealed. And now I know more of what I need to work on in order to integrate those parts of myself in order to become more whole.
Exactly.
Because the more whole I become, the better choices I will make. And the more you can see in yourself, the more you can see in others. And the more you can see the red flags, the more you can see, this is a trauma bond. Yeah, I'm going.
Don't have to go there again.
I don't have to go there again.
Yeah.
So it can be a beautiful reflection of yourself.
And that's actually quite spiritual.
Yeah.
When you do that, to gather your parts and become more whole in yourself is a very spiritual experience. You are not dishonoring the spiritual by leaving a trauma bond. In fact, you are honoring it, because true spiritual growth brings you back in alignment with your body, brings you back in alignment with your boundaries, and brings you back in alignment with your self-respect. And those are 3 things that you do when you leave a trauma bond. Maybe the spiritual growth that you need to get from that relationship comes from leaving it. But once again, if you feel that you may be in a trauma bond, we highly recommend that you seek professional help. There are amazing counselors and therapists out there that deal with this daily and can help you free yourself from this trauma bond.
If a connection is costing you your own peace and your own stability, it's not love, it's a trauma bond. And if you're choosing safety above love, you're doing it because you're choosing the love you actually deserve. And you don't deserve the trauma bond. You deserve something that truly is spiritual, truly connectedness with your sense of self.
If you resonated with this message, please subscribe. It's free and it helps to get the message out there so that people can understand why they struggle so much with trauma bond relationships. And see you in the next one.